All right, so everybody, that was Lauren. Lauren's one of our kick-ass paralegals at our law firm. She's one of the many people who came to our law firm because she cares about freedom. Attorneys for Freedom's not just a name. We're pro-freedom activists. And she's just one of the many people at all different levels who was attracted to work at my law firm because she cares about working at a firm that's interested in something more than just making money. If you've thought about this at all, you've probably concluded money's important. I admit that. I'm a capitalist. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an American. Happy about saying all that. But freedom's more important than money. I don't care how much money you got. If you don't have your freedom, you really got nothing. Lauren was just in Washington, D.C., giving a talk about the Second Amendment and gun rights and freedom, and did an awesome job. I think that's on our website, too, which you can check out at attorneysforfreedom.com. Let's see, I've been giving this talk about 25 years now. Not a hell of a lot's changed. I never do it the same way twice, so I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to say today. But if you guys have questions, then certainly let me know. Don't be shy. I like it much better when you guys have questions, especially hard questions. You're probably not going to have a question I hadn't heard before from the gun crowd since I've been doing this talk, I don't know, 25 years, maybe longer than that. That's a pretty conservative estimate. So it's true, my name is Marc Victor. I'm the owner and founder of the Attorneys for Freedom law firm. We're a national law firm. We represent people in all 50 states. Almost at any given time, we got cases in other states. We are hardcore criminal defense at our firm. I tell people, you want somebody to hold your hand and walk you through the criminal justice system, that ain't us. My team likes to go to trial. I like to describe my lawyers as a wild pack of wolves, foaming at the mouth. We like to try cases. We like to fight the government. But we also like to educate people about how to be responsible gun owners. We talk a lot about our rights as gun owners. Did you know you got legal responsibilities as well? That's pretty much the standard talk I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about the most important things first. So if you're listening to this talk and you want to be a responsible firearms owner, I'm going to cover the 5 things from my talk here at the Crossroads of the West Gun Show and the countless other talks I've given to members of the gun community about the stuff from a criminal defense lawyer who does cases, goes to court, on the front line, in the trenches, almost every day, the stuff that I think you need to know if you want to stay out of my office. You might like hanging out at lawyers' offices, spending all your money on lawyers, defending yourself against a prosecutor, or maybe a woke prosecutor. They're out there. There's lots of them. I get more and more of them all the time. Guess what? They don't like guns. They don't like people who carry guns. They're excited about bringing heavy-duty, high-level felony charges against people who they say made a mistake with a firearm, and it's easy to make a mistake. All right, so the 5 most important things from my perspective as a 30-year criminal defense lawyer who's damn sure pro-freedom. What's up, my brother? Hey, after the talk, you guys should come talk to Amir, one of the more interesting people at the gun show. You want to stay out of trouble? Listen to the 5 things I got to tell you about. The number 1 most important thing, the thing that causes me to sit back at my desk and scratch my head and say, why did this person do this? I could probably beat this case, could get this person out of this problem, but for the fact that they didn't just shut up. Just shut up. Okay, that's the best way I know how to say it. It's the official legal way of saying it. Keep your big mouth shut. Now, I know you think that you've had a lot of training and you're never going to be involved in a bad shoot and the justice system's going to work just fine. Guess what? Doesn't always work that way. I cannot tell you how many times I have been sitting in my office on some very serious firearms-related charge when I'm saying to myself, if this person had just kept their big mouth shut, I could beat this case. I could get them out in a much easier way. And when I was a young lawyer, I used to say that. I used to say, hey, man, don't talk to the cops. And I used to think that was enough. But now, 30 years later, I know damn sure that you still are going to talk to the cops. I know you guys. You guys come into my office. And I say, how did you find out about the Attorneys for Freedom law firm? And you say, well, I found out about the gun show. I listened to your talk. And I say, didn't you hear me say, shut up? They say, yeah, but, I figured I didn't do anything wrong, and the cops seem so nice, and on and on and on, and, I got nothing to hide. All this garbage. And so I started scratching my head back when I had here, thinking about what is it I can say to these people to convince them to just shut up. And it occurred to me why people talk. So you guys don't know how the game works, the criminal justice system. So I don't want to spend all day harping on this point, but I need to say a few things so you know how the game works. First off, we got a deal worked out with the police officers in the United States. They're going to remind you of my most important number one piece of advice. We call it the Miranda rule. They're going to remind you about my advice just at the time you need to be reminded. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with the Miranda rule, you have a right to remain silent. Okay? A right. Right to remain silent. Hard fought. People died. Blood was shed. Right to keep your damn big mouth shut. Exercise it. But then they go further. They tell you something else. You know the line, anything you say will be used. Who knows how it will be used? Anybody know? Who knows?
Against you.
Against you. Let's just go slow through that again. Anything you say will, not might be, will be used, how? Against you. To put you in prison. And of course, us criminal defense lawyers who've been around a while wish they would say it a little differently. Kind of like this. Anything you say and some stuff you didn't even say will be used against you. That's how I wish they would say it. Because I've seen that many times. I got lots of stories I could tell you about. I got stories about police reports where it says in there from the officer, then I spoke to the defendant, Mr. So-and-so. I asked him what happened, and he said, comma, quote, the following thing, end quote. That's going to be the worst statement in the case. That's going to be the thing that hurts you the most. Guaranteed. That's why that cop's putting it in there. I had clients who have said, under those circumstances, I never said that. It's in the police report in quotes. You're telling me you never said that? Well, in this one case that I'm thinking about, which was a firearms-related case, where my guy discharged a round, fortunately, think fortunately as in 10 years of your life you do not now have to spend in prison as a result of that statement. There was a recording, and I listened to it from beginning to end, and damn sure the guy never said that statement, the worst statement in the whole case. My guy would have done 10 years had that statement been believed by the prosecutor, had the cop not recorded the statement. This is just a case of negligence. This is just the cop screwed up. The fact that you remain silent, this is what you don't understand. Now, maybe this crowd, being a little more savvy, probably understands. They can't use your silence against you. You're worried that if the police officer shows up and says, tell me what happened, Mr. Claimed to be victim, innocent person here, what happened? And if you say, well, look, man, the short but handsome lawyer at the Crossroads of the West gun show, yeah, that's me, in case you were wondering. Just saying. In case you didn't know. Mark Victor told me to just shut up. And so therefore, Mr. Nice Police Officer, I'm gonna just shut up. I want my lawyer. I'm not saying jack shit without my lawyer. You're worried that that's coming into your trial. You're worried that that cop's gonna say, that's a good reason to arrest this person. You're worried that the prosecutor's gonna say, I'm charging him because of that. You're worried you're going to be on the stand, or the cop's going to be on the stand. The prosecutor's going to say, what happened next, Mr. Nice? Very friendly, very honest police officer. He says, well, I asked him what happened. He said he wanted his lawyer. And the prosecutor's going to stand up in front of the jury and say, ladies and gentlemen, if he really was innocent, like he's saying, why didn't he just tell the cop what happened? Okay, none of that's happening. None of that's happening. None of it. That cop opens his mouth at your trial, says, I asked him what happened, and he said, I'm remaining silent, I want my lawyer. If you have a defense attorney who's not sleeping, that defense attorney is going to say, excuse me, Judge, may we approach? You ever wonder what happens at these little sidebars? We walk up there and I say, Judge, did you hear that? The cop just commented on my client's Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. I want a mistrial. I want the case thrown out. That's a legitimate argument. I love it when that happens. Okay, now, the judge is probably going to do everything to save the case. But if that judge finds that that cop intentionally screwed up, that case is going to get thrown out, maybe with prejudice. Case over. The rule is you got a right to remain silent, and the jury doesn't get to hear about it if you do, because they don't get to draw an inference that you might be a bad guy or guilty or consciousness of guilt. None of it comes in. The way it goes is prosecutor says, Mr. Nice Cop, what happened? He says, yeah, I got a call, came to the scene, blah, blah, blah. I arrested the defendant. He skips right over. I asked him what happened, and he said, I want to remain silent. Skips right over it. That's how it goes. They don't get to use it to say you're guilty. They don't get to use it to keep you in custody. They don't get to use it to charge you. There ain't a downside from keeping your mouth shut. It is not a reason to arrest you. And by the way, you couldn't come up with a worse possible time to give a detailed statement about what just happened that will be used against you maybe 2 years later when your case goes to trial than right then, after the shooting, when your hand is going like this, because it's going to be. I met with lots of people after shootings. They're freaked out. You got all kinds of hormones pumping through your body. You are freaked. And if you screw it up, if you say something wrong, you made a mistake, if you left something out, if you were unclear, where'd the guy come in to your house from? He came in from there, Mr. Officer. Maybe you're pointing at the door. He thinks you're pointing at the window. He writes down, you said the window. You want to get into this? Look, your job is to make my job easy and saving your ass. Don't make my job harder. Keep your mouth shut. Some of you have listened to some of these other companies that are selling gun insurance that aren't even lawyers, or maybe they are lawyers, but they don't go to court. A self-defense lawyer ain't necessarily a trial lawyer. When you open your mouth and say, I shot because I was in fear for my life, okay, that's your legal theory now. We're stuck with it. Maybe I didn't want that legal theory. When it shot the dude in the back, that's going to be a problematic legal theory. But we might have had a good legal theory that you shot this person to protect a third party. But since you opened your big mouth and followed an overly generalized piece of advice to say every time after a shooting, I was in fear for my life, you blew it. That's your theory now. What about 13411, crime prevention statute? I shot and killed another person because it was immediately necessary to protect or stop another person from committing one of the crimes on the laundry list. You opened your big mouth and said I shot because I was in fear for my life. 13411 is now unavailable to you. Why limit your legal theory by opening your mouth and puking it out there at the beginning of the case? Horrible time to do that. Plus, what if your statement is recorded incorrectly, like I spoke about earlier? That's a negligent police officer. What if you get one of those lying, dishonest, immoral, thug police officers? Now, this is the minority of cops. In my opinion, it's a small minority of cops. But they're out there, and you don't know who the hell you're dealing with. You want to trust 10 years of your life to a police officer who might have the opinion, I don't think non-cops should have guns? You don't think there's cops out there like that? I've talked to them. Some of them don't like that non-police officers are carrying firearms. Is that the person you want to be trusting to write down your statement correctly? The statement that might get your butt thrown in prison for 10 or more years? I'm sorry, my freedom is important to me. I'm not leaving it up to the discretion of some cop who I never met. Sorry. There are lying police officers in the world. Are there exceptions to this just shut up rule? Yes. I wouldn't be a lawyer if I didn't have exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions to the rule. First, the dreaded 911 call. Someone out there is already getting ready to ask me this question. Comes up every gun show. Mark, should I call 911? What should I say? Okay, it's hard to give general advice here, but I'm going to try. If somebody's going to be dead, some person's on the floor bleeding out, call 911. Better yet, get someone else to call 911. I'd rather you keep your mouth shut. You know that's a recorded line. What should they say? What should you say if no one else can call 911? Here's what you say. Hello, 911. There has been a shooting. Okay, that's different than I shot someone. There has been a shooting. Human life is in danger. Please send emergency help right now. Here's the address. Goodbye. Click. Now, you know that 911 officer is going to be asking you all kinds of questions. That's their job. You know that's coming. Don't answer those questions. We'll answer them later. Way later. How about like after you've consulted with an attorney, after I've reviewed the evidence, maybe even after I've spoken to the prosecutor? That's a way better time than right now. Way better. Then your job is to not get killed by the cops. Now, why do I say it like that? This is a risky thing. The cop's going to get a call. There's been a shooting. They don't know what the hell's going on. They're coming home is their attitude. It was like my attitude when I was in Saudi Arabia, Operation Desert Storm, with their other Marines. Our attitude was, we're coming home. When in doubt, we're going to blow them away. That's it. I'm coming home. That cop's going to have a similar attitude. So make sure you secure the scene. Make sure the gun's not in your hand. Make sure when they show up, you're not looking like you're a threat. Get that out of the way, then keep your mouth shut. In an ideal circumstance, you'll have me on the phone, which, by the way, is easy to do. We take calls 24/7, 365, around the clock, every day. I've been to court at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. many times. We call that the late night freedom fight at our law firm. But if you got me on the phone, I'll try to talk to that cop. Maybe I can even have a little time to talk to you in an attorney-client setting so I know what happened. So maybe I can transmit the best parts of your statement to the cop. Maybe we can make it so you don't even get arrested. We had 2 people in the last year or so who shot and killed another person. Both times, not arrested, no charges. It happens. All right, so if you got to call 911, there's an exception. Next exception, traffic stops. Look, you want to try to talk yourself out of a ticket? Talk that cop out of giving you a ticket? Fine. The exception to the exception, you got a dead body in your trunk? Illegal weapons in your trunk? Kilo of cocaine in your trunk? See the first rule, just shut up. But if all you've been doing is speeding, you feel pretty good, you're otherwise okay, feel free to try to talk yourself out of that speeding ticket. By the way, little tip, cop can't believe it if you tell the truth. I've gotten out of the last 5 speeding tickets, and I speed every time I drive, by the way, just by saying, "Ah, you got me. I was going too fast. Now I just screwed up my speeding trial." But if you've been to the city of Phoenix, I don't know what to call that thing down there, that big giant piece of property on prime real estate down there, you'll find that most people don't win their traffic trials. You got a cop and a judge, and they're collecting money. Think of that cop on a bike who pulled you over as a mobile, what's the word I'm looking for? ATM, collection agency. Just put your money in and move on. They got you. Just my 2 cents worth. After consultation, we make lots of statements. Some of you remember Peter Steinmetz. He's a buddy of mine. He gave me permission to talk about this case. You might not remember him by name. But he's the guy who decided to take his AR-15 for a walk to Sky Harbor Airport just because he could. Just because he could. He didn't go across the TSA line, but he was there. He went to Starbucks, ordered himself a hot chocolate, attracted a little crowd of police officers, as you might expect. He got charged with disorderly conduct ×2, because the cops got 2 people there to say, well, you know, when he sat down, he kind of rotated that AR-15. When he put the buttstock straight down, he kind of pointed it in the direction. By the way, that was bullshit. But 2 people, they got to say that. They arrested him. He kept his mouth shut. Wasn't it nice for me to see the video, to talk to him, to see the witness statements, and then to have a press conference, which we did at my office. Everybody showed up. He made a statement. I'm not against statements, but make them after you talk to your lawyer. You got a competent lawyer, that lawyer's going to dig through the case and find out everything that's out there that might contradict your statement. Isn't it good to know about that stuff before you open your mouth and make a statement that definitely will be used against you? Any little thing you say wrong, that prosecutor is going to say, you're making up a story. You have better memory today than you had way back when the thing happened. You don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal. Don't make my job hard. I've been doing this too long. I want it easy. That's why I'm here. So you guys make my job easy. Okay, your true name. 1 year, I don't know, probably about 15 years ago, some prosecutor was here and he said, hey, Mark, you know, it's true. If you're detained, you got to give your true full name. Yes, you do. You got to give your true full name. Okay, there's an exception to the just shut up rule. If you're driving, then license, registration, proof of insurance. We have what I think is an unconstitutional law in Arizona. The officer asks you, do you have a weapon in your vehicle? You got to answer that question truthfully. So much for the right to remain silent. Okay, true full name and the concealed weapon. Those are the last 2 exceptions. That's it. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut. I hope I've lingered on this point. I hope I've made that point. Does anybody still have questions about whether it's smart to talk to the cops? And by the way, I will say there is a body of advice out there. There's a debate online between me and Massad Ayub. You know Massad. I like Massad. You guys like Massad. I said to Massad during the debate, dude, you're an expert. You stay in your lane and don't give legal advice, and I'll stay in my lane. I don't advise you how many feet the guy with the knife can be away before it's imminent. That's not my area. But he says talk to the cops. Now, in fairness, Masad Ayub says, I assume it's a good shoot. Okay, well, if you assume it's a good shoot, maybe it's different. But I don't assume it's a good shoot. I don't think you should assume it's a good shoot. I'm going to get to this in a little bit, but what's a good shoot? A good shoot is one where a randomly selected group of people from the local community in the box called the jury, whether they think what you did under all circumstances that existed at the time was reasonable. That's what a good shoot is. I don't know what they're going to come up with. You're going to have some idiots in the jury box. You're going to have them. In case you didn't know, right? There are people out there who have a different attitude about what's reasonable than you do. So don't assume it's a good shoot. Keep your mouth shut. Number 2, self-defense is all about reasonableness. Yes, you should study the statutes. Yes, you should look at the jury instructions. There's good stuff in there. But it boils down to what I just said. Reasonableness. You see that word in every statute for self-defense. Pick a state. Look at their self-defense statutes. You're going to see the word reasonable and reasonableness. That's what it's about. Does a randomly selected group of people in the local community think what you did is reasonable? If yes, you get to go home and thank your lawyer. If no, you're off to prison, usually for many years. You got no idea who's going to be on that jury. Just as a little anecdote, every time I pick a jury in a gun case, I ask questions. In the state court, we get to ask a lot of questions. Raise your hand if you think the gun laws are too tough, too strict. And all you guys, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you think they're not strict enough. Guess who raises their hands? Lots of them. Then I say, Mrs. Jones, tell me about you raised your hand. Gun laws aren't tough enough. Tell me more about that. Oh, I don't think people should be able to have guns. Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Jones. And I think, holy mackerel. If she had been on this jury, we're screwed. If you think I can get them all off, you're kidding yourself. You're going to have people on that jury who voted for Joe Biden enthusiastically and hope that if he passes, Kamala will be president. Those will be the people on your jury. Yeah, shake your head because that's what you're going to be dealing with. Okay, number 3. You guys love to ask me legal questions. I know the questions in your head because I've done this several times. You ask questions like, what if I'm sleeping and it's the middle of the night and I hear a noise and somebody comes in my house and on and on and on. Can I shoot him? You want legal questions. That's really not what we do in the criminal justice system. A trial is a fight about the facts, not the law. It always starts like this. I meet with the prosecutor. I say, hey man, I don't know why you're charging my guy. This happened, this happened, this happened. This is self-defense. Why are you charging my guy with a case? They always say the same thing back. Hey, Mark, those ain't the facts that I got. Ain't what the witnesses on our side are saying. We have different versions of what happened. We're fighting about the facts, not the law. You need to understand this. It's not necessarily what happened. It's what do people who are witnesses there say happened. What does the evidence show? Maybe there'll be a lot of forensic type evidence. Maybe not. The jury gets to decide the facts. Number 4, mandatory minimum sentences. This is a gigantic problem in the justice system. This is why you probably are not going to trial in your gun case. What? You got a right to a trial, right? Well, yeah. But because of mandatory minimum sentences, you're going to be looking at a lot of time. on a gun case. In Arizona, almost every case is mandatory prison. You took out your gun and said, hey man, leave me alone. Disorderly conduct, dangerous. Mandatory prison. Did you point it? You say I pointed it like this. They say, no, you pointed it like that. Becomes ag assault. 5 to 15. No chance of probation. Doesn't matter if you don't have priors. Okay, that's a big risk. Guess who knows about this risk? The prosecutor. This ain't news to the prosecutor. Prosecutor may offer you a deal. Plead to a non-dangerous disorderly conduct. Yep, you'll have a felony on your record, lose your gun rights. But you get probation. I know you don't want to take that deal, so you're going to talk to me. Say, Mark, what are the chances I win at trial? I can already tell you, we don't give better than 50-50. We don't. You're going to roll the dice, 50-50, you're going to prison? Guarantee you're not doing that. But I have a thought experiment. What if I told you privately, hey, look, man, 90% chance we win? And I'm never going to say that. But what if I did? 90% chance I win at trial, and you walk. 10%, you're going to prison for 10 years. You're still not going to roll the dice. And I'm not going to tell you that. What I'm trying to get in your head here is that mandatory minimum sentencing often results in taking away your right to a jury trial. It's forcing people like this to take a plea. And you already know 95+% are going to take a plea already. And that's of all cases, including the ones, most of which, that don't have mandatory minimums. I don't have the stats on just gun cases, but I can assure you they're even higher than that. Avoid the problem in the first place is my advice. And that gets me to number 5. What should be in your head at the time you're thinking about pulling out your firearm? Look, best case scenario, you're out in town, you got a gun, you're thinking about something's happening, maybe now's the time I should pull it out. All right, call me. Let's talk about it. It's going to take me about an hour to go through the situation. I need to know who you are, who they are, how much you weigh, how far away they are, what was said. I like to know what's on your record, by the way. We got an hour, and then I'm going to give you a very squishy, lawyerly opinion. Based on everything you told me, of course there could be other facts out there that could change everything, but based on everything you told me, it's my opinion, you're probably okay to pull out your firearm. Who sees a problem with this? What's the problem here?
You brandished your firearm.
If you got an hour to chat with me about whether you should pull out your firearm, it ain't imminent. The answer is no. Don't do it. Okay, but I got to give you something better than this, right? Here's what I want you to think about, which I think you can do in a second or two. What I want in your head, if you're thinking about maybe now's the time to pull out a firearm. Well, I want you to imagine you're going to be prosecuted. I should just be able to say that and be done. But some of you haven't been prosecuted, so I want to fill in a few details about being prosecuted. You're definitely going to be arrested. Imagine you will be escorted to the ground first. If you've ever been escorted to the ground, you'll find it's not much of an escort. You're going to be cuffed, stuffed, taken to jail, paraded in front of a judge who's already read something that we call a Form 4 in Arizona. It's going to be the cop's version. The cop who arrested you, who wants you charged, who thinks you're guilty. The cop's version of what happened. That's what the judge will have read and thought about before you even show up. Keep that in mind. Cash-only bonds are really popular right now. Cash only, just to make it extra hard for you to get out of custody. you should expect you're going to get a high bond. And you're going to sit there for a long time. Then you should expect you're going to hire a lawyer. Now, I already know how much money you want to spend on a lawyer. How much is that? 0. It's going to be a lot more than that. My rate's $6.50 an hour. You want to go to trial? I hope you got $250,000 sitting around. It's probably going to need that. That ain't going to be fun. You're going to think about this every day, second you open your eyes. And when you go to bed at night, it's going to be the last thing on your mind. Going to have problems in the bathroom. These things are stressful. And you're going to be reminded of what I just told you about mandatory minimums. And you're probably going to take a deal. And then you're going to lose your gun rights, which maybe you'll get back if it's Arizona. And you're going to have a felony on your record. That's being prosecuted. Okay, so hold that over here. Back to the 2 seconds you got to think about pulling out your firearm. If you are not willing to be prosecuted, it's probably not serious enough. So let me give you some examples. This is the which is worse game. I'm thinking about pulling it out. If I don't pull it out, I'm going to be dead. If I do pull it out, I'm going to be prosecuted. Which is worse? Okay, I don't know for sure. But let's just imagine death is worse. Then the answer is pull it out. Next example. If I don't pull it out, someone I love is going to be dead or seriously injured, or you're going to be prosecuted. Which is worse? I think someone I love being dead or seriously injured is worse than prosecuted. Okay, here's an example from my practice. Had a guy came into my office. He was charged with aggravated assault. I asked him, why'd you pull it out? You know what he said? Because I was disrespected. Okay, let's run that through the analysis. Let me just first say, nobody likes being disrespected, right? I don't like being disrespected. You probably don't like being disrespected. Being disrespected is bad. Would you rather be disrespected or prosecuted? Disrespect me all day long. So don't pull it out. Anyone have any questions about how the Mark Victor analysis works? All right, since I'm running out of voice, let me say a few things about our friendly competitors here. USCCA and the $650 an hour I just referred to. You are always welcome at my law firm to pay my $650 an hour if you choose. But there's a way to avoid that. We got this program at our firm. It's called Attorneys on Retainer. How do you avoid this problem? You pay $100 to sign up one time, and you're out $100. Then you pay $35 a month. If you just want Arizona, because you don't travel out of Arizona, then you pay $25 a month. If you get into a self-defense incident and you get charged with a felony, we handle it. Doesn't cost you anything extra. I take my team of 5 criminal defense lawyers. We all work on your case. We'll travel to another state. No big deal. We do it all the time. And we will defend you all the way through a jury trial without any costs. We take care of the experts. We take care of the investigators. If you get sued, because some of you are worried about being sued, we defend you with our awesome civil department at our firm, all the way through trial. It's a whole bunch of other bells and whistles. Why would you sign up for us instead of USCCA down there? Some of you know I have a big mouth. I'm not afraid to say it like it is. You can watch my video critique of each of these other programs. I have a big advantage because I'm not an insurance company. I'm a law firm with real lawyers who try cases. who have lots of experience. Look, I got nothing against insurance companies, but insurance companies exclude criminal acts. We have a public policy problem with insurance companies that say, we cover a criminal act. Now, how do they get around this? If you look at their policy, the policy says criminal acts are excluded. But if I say they won't cover you if you're charged with a crime as a result of a self-defense incident, then they'll get upset with me. With good reason. That's why I don't say it like that. Why? Because they live in this little area where they say, well, look, you're charged with a crime, but you're still presumed innocent. And we've decided this is a valid self-defense shoot. And therefore, it's not a criminal act, and we'll defend you. And that's exactly what the better companies who are insurance-based do. Until you take a deal, then you're screwed. If you look at some of my videos, we reference their videos. USCCA themselves comes out and says, if you take a plea or you're found guilty, all coverage ends. That's a verbatim quote. And there's a 95% chance you're going to take a deal. And then there's all this great civil coverage they talk about. But you took a deal, so you lost that. What about your sentencing that's coming up? Who's going to represent you? Okay, they'll represent you on an appeal, sure. But you got to be guilty first to get to an appeal. And what if they decide it's not a good shoot? For me, it's not a problem. I defend people all the time who actually committed criminal acts. That's what we do. We're a law firm. I want you to think about this. There are three varieties of shoots. There's the good shoot, there's the bad shoot, and there's the questionable shoot. You should think about these three varieties of shoots. First, you might think you're always going to be involved in a good shoot. I hope you are. Good for you. But if you are, you don't need any of these programs because you're not likely to be charged if you were involved in a good shoot. It's clearly a good shoot. You might be. There are some examples to the contrary. The Rittenhouse case, for example. That's one example. But I've done a lot of high-profile cases. High-profile cases are different than routine cases. In a routine case, just like the two guys I told you about, who we had recently, who shot two people and killed them, they weren't arrested, they weren't charged, no problem. They were clearly good shoots. So if you have one of these other companies and you're in a good shoot, you don't need them. Okay, what do we do for you? I still got something for you. I'll represent you as a victim. Huh? Well, if it's a good shoot, you're a victim. There's a bad guy who should get charged. We do these all the time. It's really fun for me to come into court and pound that lectern and ask that judge for more time, not less. I'm happy to do that for you. With our program, we'll represent you in a good shoot as a victim and do everything we can to get the bad guy charged and to go to that sentencing and be your mouthpiece. And we also will deal with the press, something we're no strangers to. If it's a bad shoot, say it's a bad shoot. You're with one of these other companies and they hire Massad Ayub and he looks at it and says, it's a bad shoot. Or say you're Kayla Giles, you're signed up in USCCA, and they decide it's a bad shoot, so they don't cover it. Or you're Alan Coley, the guy who shot the prankster at the mall in Virginia. Did you see that video? It came out from his public defender that he was a USCCA member. He called USCCA right at the beginning. Well, they looked at that video like I did and said, this is maybe not a good shoot. I don't know if you saw the video. The prankster had his phone and he was playing some stupid thing and he was kind of pursuing the guy. And Coley pulls out a gun and blows him away. Fortunately, the guy didn't die. Looked like a bad shoot. USCCA dropped him. Got a public defender, went to trial, and got found not guilty from self-defense. Oops. The point here is, if the insurance company decides it's a bad shoot, you're screwed. If we decide it's a bad shoot, we don't care. You were trying to act in self-defense, that's all I want. That you're not committing a bank robbery or something. You say you tried to fire in defense, you were scared. Happy to defend you. I don't have to come out of my pocket for $250,000 to hire a lawyer to defend you. I employ a bunch of lawyers. They're all on salary. It's just another case for me. Ain't no big deal. I'm going to cover it because I want the 5-star review. It's like I've been collecting for the last 30 years. Easy. So if you're in a bad shoot and you're with an insurance-based company, you got problems. They are not going to risk losing their insurance license because they covered something. And some of them will say, we want the money back. Some of these companies have changed their policies to comply with insurance regulators. So they say, look, if we spent money and it turns out it's a criminal act, we'll ask them to pay it back. Do you want that? Is that what you're paying for? I know that's not what you're paying for. This is why they can't compete with me, because I'm a law firm and they're an insurance company. What if it's a questionable shoot? All right, so if it's a questionable shoot, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, we can't tell. A lot of them fall in this area. There are good people who are in competition with us, who are running insurance company-based programs. The best of them are going to cover that. They'll cover that until you take a deal. Then you lost everything. Now, you may not take a deal, right? You might go to trial. If you go to trial, we love trying cases. But in a gun case, with the mandatory minimum, you're probably going to take a deal. And some deals are great. What if you're charged with second-degree murder and they offer you misdemeanor? I don't need to hear anymore. Pay the $200 fine, take the misdemeanor, and move on. Don't risk the rest of your life in prison. I don't even need to know the facts. So you may take a deal. If you do, you just lost everything. What if you get sued? Sorry, you took a deal. It's a criminal act. This is why I'm telling you this, because the more information you know about these programs, you go ask USCCA, do you cover criminal acts? Ask them. If I screw it up and I'm in a bad shoot, it's really not self-defense. I shot him in the back because I was drinking at the time. And by the way, even if they cover it, there are so many exclusions. You guys, if you watch my videos, you'll see you were drinking, sorry, no coverage. Illegal weapon, sorry, no coverage. You were in a place where guns weren't allowed, sorry, no coverage. Like Alan Coley, the shooter, even if it had been a good shoot, he's at the mall and ain't no guns allowed at the mall. Sorry, no coverage. Domestic violence, this happens, right? You can imagine sometimes people get heated with ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-husband, ex-wife, father, son, whatever. Sorry, no coverage for you on many of these companies. Prohibited possessor, something wrong with your weapon, no coverage. On and on and on. In our contract, it says, here are the list of things that are specifically not excluded. And I list all that stuff, because we don't care about that stuff. My team likes to defend people who are charged with crimes. So you think for yourself, again, you can always pay my $650 and ignore everything I'm saying. Here you go, brother. You can ignore everything I'm saying and pay the $650 if you need us. We'll do our best for you. Or you think a little bit in advance.
Hey, Mark, all right, go. Thank you for your help. I don't even need one. I'm a
customers.
All right, brother. Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you, brother.
You guys took care of me.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir. Pay $100, $25 a month if you're in Arizona. We handle it. No problems, no issues. Check out my firm, Attorneys for Freedom. We're the real deal. I didn't wake up and decide to be a freedom guy yesterday. I've been a freedom guy for 30 years. Some of you remember I ran for U.S. Senate last time against Blake Masters and the knucklehead that's in there right now. We're for freedom at our firm. If that appeals to you, that's what you're supporting with my firm. Also, one last point I'll make here. Many of these companies don't have lawyers answering the phone. They can't give you legal advice. With my team, when you call 24/7, 365, you will be talking to a lawyer on the phone. Same lawyer who's going to be representing you if you go to trial. That's way better than an answering service that can't give legal advice. Yeah, they'll get you a lawyer. It'll take them a few days to find one. Use your brain. Think about which program is better. Again, it may not be for everybody. We don't have training like some of the other companies. That's a fair point. We have a seminar we do once a year. I'm going to bring my lawyers out. You can ask us questions. We're going to talk to you about self-defense. We're going to talk to you about your rights when you get pulled over, Fourth Amendment law. We'll do some training, but I don't have tons of videos. If you want that, join the other companies. And by the way, we're going to be updating our program very soon. We likely will be covering misdemeanors, appeals, and probably raising our bond amount. I won't accept second best, ever. Anyways, that's my presentation for today. I know I'm running out of voice. If you guys have questions, you can ask them now, or you can always call the firm and meet with me or someone on my team privately in an attorney-client privilege setting at any time. Thank you so much for your attention.